All right, a Monday edition of Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Wisconsin gets a win on Saturday to go 2-0 in Big Ten play. I was there. Interesting game, but a win's a win nonetheless. NFL, the second of 3 weekends in a row without the Packers playing, because last week it was Thursday night, the whole weekend free. This week it's Monday night, kind of a mini bye, and we'll obviously preview Packers-Raiders in just a moment. But then next week it's a bye, so another Sunday without the Packers found me in an apple orchard. I went apple picking for the first time in my life yesterday. That was interesting. I love apple cider. Found that out this weekend. So that happened. What else? What else do we have going on? Total chaos in the NFL, which we'll get to in a second. Some chaos in college football. It is really the best time of year for sports. I mean, it really is, right? Like, we've got the NBA kicking up in just a few weeks. We had all the media day stuff last week, Jimmy Butler's haircut, Giannis saying he's staying in Milwaukee, all that good stuff. So it really is, and obviously playoff baseball. So it really is the best time of year as we get into week 5 of the NFL season. So it's time to get into, as we always start. We got rid of the $4 Facebook Marketplace whiteboard, but we still go through some of the notes I took throughout the weekend. And I read a note I wrote yesterday mid-afternoon, and it just said the word chaos. And sometimes I write notes and don't realize what I mean by them. I assume I meant this in relation to the NFL, but I'm not sure exactly why. Right? Like, it was kind of a chaotic NFL weekend. I love the drama between Sean Payton, the head coach of the Broncos, and Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator of the Jets, former head coach of the Broncos. The Jets going to Denver, getting a big win. Breece Hall has a phenomenal game for the Jets, really his first game since being healthy again. I love that. The Vikings actually competed with the Chiefs. I watched most of that game. Chiefs still win. They're 4-1. They haven't lost since the opener against Detroit. They look like one of the best teams in football, but I don't know if they look like the best team in football, because the best team in football resides in San Francisco. Well, really Santa Clara, but San Francisco. The 49ers are phenomenal. 42 points on the Cowboys last night. Hunter Vaughn, the producer of our show, his Cowboys last night. 42-10. Real quick, Hunter, your reaction to the Cowboys pooping themselves a little bit.
It's very clear that there is a huge gap in the NFC from San Francisco and everybody else.
Yeah, I think Philly's there. Philly's close. I mean, it's clearly San Francisco and Philly, the two remaining undefeated teams in the NFL. But San Francisco is so good. And, I'm ready to declare it. Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback, right? Like, this guy is good. And he played a lot of college ball. He hasn't lost an NFL game that he started and finished. He is undefeated if he starts the game and finishes the game. That's crazy to me. As the 49ers roll to 5-0 on the year, they get a 32-point victory last night. Sam Darnold and Cooper Rush are playing in the fourth quarter of what I viewed as the game of the year so far. It was not that whatsoever. Miami also really good. They roll on the Giants 31-16. I still haven't figured out how to say this cat's name. Is it Devon Achane, the running back of the Dolphins, has another huge game, 11 carries, 150 and a touchdown. So Miami's really good, really fast. Tyreek Hill and Achane are just both speedy as heck. So there are a couple of good teams. Last week on the show, we determined, I think, 7 or 8 good NFL teams. I don't know if I'm ready to call Baltimore good anymore, as they lose to Pittsburgh, whose offense stinks. They might have the best defense in the league, but their offense stinks, and they still find a way to score 14 points in the fourth quarter and win. So another chaotic week of the NFL. I love it, man. I love NFL football. It is so much fun. And we get one more game tonight. Game 14 of 14 tonight in Las Vegas as the Green Bay Packers make their debut in Vegas against the Raiders. A couple ways to view this game, right? I view this as a game I'd be shocked if the Packers find a way to lose. I don't think the Raiders are very good. They have a couple really good players, though. Right, defensively, they have Max Crosby, who will certainly provide some issues for the Packers' offensive front. Sounds like Elton Jenkins will play, though, back at the left guard spots. So that's good, right? I mean, that's a good sign for the Packers. But Max Crosby's a force, man. He's a really good player. The rest of that defense kind of meh, right? Like they've got a couple guys that make you go, okay, sure. But I don't think this is a defense that should provide a ton of issues for the Packers if they get out to a fast start specifically, and Aaron Jones isn't on a snap count. Like I view this as a team that the Packers should pick apart at least offensively. From a Raiders offensive standpoint, Jimmy G scares nobody, especially if he's playing tonight. It sounds like he will. Like, he scares nobody. So that helps, but they do have two guys that should scare you as a Packers fan, specifically at the wide receiver position in Davante Adams, who we'll talk more about in just a second, and the running back, Josh Jacobs. I do the Pack-A-Day podcast with Andy Herman, who's terrific, and Perry Goldstein, who's also terrific. I do that twice a month. We recorded last night, and they made fun of me because once again I brought up Raheem Mostert and the time he went bananas against the Packers in the playoffs for like 3 billion yards and 4 touchdowns a couple of years ago. And I have PTSD as a Packers fan when it comes to this run defense. So Josh Jacobs, despite how bad the Raiders' offensive line is, or how average it is at best, like, Josh Jacobs is still one of the best running backs in football, despite maybe not looking like that this year or early on in the season. So, yeah, I'm still a little bit terrified of what Josh Jacobs is capable of. Of course, I'm terrified of what Davante Adams is capable of. But this is a prove-it game for the Green Bay Packers. This is a game they should win. This is, you come off a mini-bye, essentially 10 games or 10 days of rest, and you go to Las Vegas against a meh team, right? You've got like 3 guys that scare you. Outside of that, Marcus Peters, for example, the cornerback of the Raiders. He ain't the Marcus Peters of 5 years ago. He's a good corner, probably be matched up with Christian Watson. But that allows Jordan Love to go pick on guys that probably shouldn't be on the field. Their other starting quarterback, Nate Hobbs, out of this game, the Raiders. So Jordan Love should expose a pretty weak defensive backfield. 3 touchdowns should be like the goal number for Jordan Love tonight. I just have a hard time envisioning any way the Packers find to lose this game. And I'm not sitting here and acting like the Packers are a great team. They might not even be a good team. I just know the Raiders are not a good team, for sure. I know that for a fact. So as long as Josh Jacobs doesn't run for 8 million yards, which, again, with a Joe Barry defense may be possible, I feel pretty good about the Packers' chances. But this is a prove-it game of sorts for not only Jordan Love, but the Packers' defense. It's a weak offensive line. If your front seven can create some pressure, can disrupt a little bit, can get to Jimmy G, shove him in the locker, and take his lunch money, like, I feel good about the Packers' chances tonight. Early lead, control Josh Jacobs. I think you win this game. All right, the matchup everybody's looking forward to, man. Whew. This is the marquee matchup. This is why it's in prime time. Right? This is the reason this game is on a Monday night. Davante Adams, Jair Alexander, both dealing with injuries, both listed as questionable tonight. I don't see a chance either of them aren't playing tonight. Like, this is the matchup both of these guys have had circled. This is the debatably the best wide receiver in football against debatably one of, if not the best corner in football. Jair versus Davante. We saw it in practice for years as they were teammates in Green Bay. They challenge the hell out of each other, man. Like, they are fun. And this is where everybody's eyes in the television should go tonight, because why the hell would you keep your eyes on Jimmy G? Outside of the fact he's a really handsome dude. He's wearing a helmet. You can't see much. Davante Adams, Jair Alexander is the marquee matchup. Get your popcorn ready and focus at the top of your TV screen, because this is all I'm paying attention to when the Raiders are on offense tonight. Also, maybe a little bit of Josh Jacobs as long as the Packers contain him. This is going to be the best. I mean, it has the potential to be the best Jair Alexander game of the season. It also has the potential to be the worst Jair Alexander game of the season. These two are going to go back and forth. They're going to be jaw-jacking. They're going to be testing each other. I hope there's a couple flags that pop up in the area. It is the best matchup of the night. I cannot wait for this one. This grade A booking. Hunter, is there a better, like, off the top of your head, is there a better wide receiver corner matchup to pay attention to the rest of the season, right? Like, take Jair Alexander as the example. I don't think he sees a better wide receiver.
The only one I can think of would possibly be Jair against Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and there's some history there.
But the Vikings are garbage. Like, they're worse than the Raiders, so it's not nearly as fun.
They're probably a better team on paper than the Raiders, but you're right from a record standpoint, right? So, yeah, and you get 2 matchups of that. So I think maybe that's why I'm overselling this one. You just get this once, and you might never get it again, right? You're guaranteed Jefferson, at least for now, and Jair twice a year. Whereas Devontae, I mean, you only play the AFC once every 4 years, AFC West once every 4 years. This is a really fun matchup, so I'm looking forward to this. Packers should win big tonight. Our buddy Brandon Sneide from WTMJ joins us next as we talk Packers. He's such a smart guy, and we talked about when the Brewers got eliminated last week. Like, I'm not the smartest baseball fan in the world. I look to people much smarter than me. Brandon is one of those. I know he's going to have a take on the Brewers and what the hell went wrong in 2 games against the Diamondbacks. So we'll talk a little Brewers, but we're all in on the Packers. I see he's got his Green Bay Packers hat on. So we'll talk Packers, maybe a little Brewers, maybe some other stuff. We'll see what happens. Brandon Sneide from WTMJ joins us next. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Our conversation with our buddy Brandon Sneide from WTMJ is brought to you by my friends at Door County Distillery. Locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits made locally in Door County. It was a big Door County Distillery weekend for me. Friday night, it was the award-winning bourbon. Had a little bit of the cherry brandy. On Saturday, after a big Wisconsin win, you got to do your tailgate, your gathering, your party, whatever it is. You got to do it right with Door County Distillery. Visit their website, doorcountydistillery.com, for all of their unique cocktail recipes. They've got hundreds of them. Or check out the retailer nearest you. That's doorcountydistillery.com, doorcountydistillery.com. Let's talk with Brandon Sneide. Yeah, nobody's got a sicker at-home setup than Brandon Sneide. Check that out. Like, pull him up, Hunter. Check out all the background pictures and the license plate. Like, what a setup for Brandon. How are you, bro? Thanks for doing this. Uh-oh, struggling to hear Brandon. I knew this was going to happen. We have issues sometimes with our software. So we'll try to connect with Brandon, figure out his audio. In the meantime, though, I'm just going to continue to riff, and I'm hearing myself double, so I got to toss the headphones for a moment. Beautiful. This is the beauty of live production right here. So we'll reconnect with Brandon in a moment. But Devontae Jair, number one matchup. My number one worry is Josh Jacobs going for 1 million yards tonight against the Packers, because with Joe Barry, it is such a fine line, right? Like, you have to prove to me that you can do it before I trust that you can do it. And that is my biggest concern, right? Like, David Montgomery now 3 times has come into Lambeau Field and gone for 100+ yards. And he did it again last Thursday. And while Detroit is a good football team and the Raiders are not, Josh Jacobs is a better running back than David Montgomery. And I just hope tonight is not one of the nights where he's able to prove that. And, you know, obviously, like I said, it does not help that his offensive line is no good. So we will see on that front. All right, Brandon back with us. Can we hear Brandon, Hunter? That's what we need to figure out. Brandon? Oh, no. Beautiful. What the hell are you doing back there, Hunter? Breaking everything?
I don't know. You sent him the call.
Somehow it's my fault. I love it. All right, we can get him on the phone, something like that. Great, beauty of live production. All right, we'll reconnect with Brandon in a moment. But I'm curious from you, if you're watching live, let me know what your biggest worry is tonight. Because look, Jimmy G is not a worry, right? Devontae is a worry. Josh Jacobs is a worry. Max Crosby is a worry. 3 good players. That's all I can outline. That's all I can really highlight for the Raiders to say, huh. Now, the other part of this, though, is Vegas. And I'm not talking about the Raiders. I'm legitimately talking about, like, sports books. Why, this line has moved a lot in the last couple of days, where Vegas now favored by 2 points. And the Packers were originally favored and had the injury report actually working in the Packers' favor, right? So they have Aaron Jones likely going to go tonight. Christian Watson going to go tonight. Elton Jenkins going to go tonight. From an offensive standpoint, you're without Devondre Campbell, but you still have Rashawn Gary. You might even have Eric Stokes. Eric Stokes questionable for tonight's game, working back from the Liz Frank and the hammy and everything in between. So I doubt Eric Stokes will go tonight, give him through the bye, but it's fun to see his name pop up on the injury report as well. So we will see if Eric Stokes goes. All right, third time's the charm, I think. We're going to try it over the phone. Brandon Sneide, WTMJ, third time's the charm. Can you hear me, my friend?
I got you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. As disappointed as I am, we're not able to see your sick at-home setup. You got like a picture of Giannis Duncan. You've got a great picture of Rodgers back there. I appreciate you doing this nonetheless. How are you?
Of course, man. It's a pleasure to be here. I love what you guys are doing over there at ESPN Madison. Always awesome to talk some Wisconsin sports. I heard you talking a little bit about those Brewers. Yeah, it's a quick finish, but hey, we got the Bucks getting ready here in Milwaukee. So it's, I mean, with one ending, one starts. It's okay, but I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
I love how you just went glass half full right away, right? Like, oh, whatever, Brewers. We got Damian Lillard. We're good. Milwaukee's fine. I actually just want you to get it off your chest, and I know you've done probably plenty of that on Wisconsin's Morning News on WTMJ, as you're the sports anchor on that show, but like, you're a huge Brewers fan. What the hell went wrong? Like, the offense we always knew would struggle, but like Corbin Burns falling apart in Game 1 was not something I expected.
No, and I don't think it was necessarily what anybody expected for a Diamondbacks team that literally squeezed into the playoffs. I mean, at the beginning of September, they had like an 18% chance of making the dance,
Oh,
and of
really?
course they make it and knock the Brewers out in 2 games after winning 92 games and really just owning the Central Division all year long. But I think what you saw in the first 2 games of the series, well, the only 2 games of the series, was just a microcosm of what their whole season was, right? Like, the inability, for whatever reason, I don't know if I'll ever have an answer for it, but it's one of the more frustrating things about watching that team is like the inability to get runners batted in scoring position, right? You had in Game 2 different instances with the bases loaded with less than 2 outs, and you don't score a run.
Yeah.
I will never, Alex, I will never understand how that, what what it takes for that to occur. Like, I just don't understand the approach at the plate. I don't know what it is. I mean, guys going down in 3 straight pitches, striking out for whatever reason. Jesse Winker's on
I
the
was just about to
roster.
bring him up. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I love Craig. I've defended Craig. I made it a point on Wisconsin's Morning News to say he's arguably one of the best managers in all of baseball, and I don't think anybody would really refute that. But when you added Jesse Winker and you left a guy off like Garrett Mitchell off the roster, even a guy like Rowdy Tellez who can play a little bit of defense, it just didn't sit well with a lot of fans, myself included. And it's something obviously that it doesn't matter now, but holy cow, what a disaster. I mean, just 92 games, winning a division and in 2 games at home and you're done. Definition of frustrating.
Yeah, you're totally right. I wanted to give you the floor on that because I know it's almost been a week and I'm still frustrated, and I am by no means the biggest Brewers fan in the world. So, good stuff there. Go ahead.
Well, if it makes you feel better, real quick, just to add in, I didn't talk to my family the night they lost the series.
So what'd you do? Like, are you just going straight to bed, or what?
My wife, she knows at this point. We've been together, a handful of years. She understands. She knew when I slammed the hat in the living room. She got the kids upstairs. Like, hey, let's go to bed. Let's be quiet for Dad and go to bed. And I went upstairs. I laid down next to her. I said, "Good night. I love you." And she goes, "I love you too." And we just went our ways. And I woke up the next morning. I wasn't as mad. I was still mad, but I got over it. But I haven't watched a pitch in the playoffs. Now, I'm a very spiteful fan, Alex. Like, I will not watch.
I am too.
I will not watch the rest of the playoffs this year. So. I couldn't tell you what happens tomorrow.
Yeah,
or today.
I couldn't either. I will watch the World Series, but I'm done until then. Right, like I'll flip on because there's probably not a whole I'd probably watch the World Series over like a Tuesday night Maction game or something,
Sure.
But
Sure.
Other than that, I'm with you. All right, so let's get into the Packers. This just coming across as we're sitting here, Brandon, from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Aaron Jones' status for tonight remains up in the air, and at this point, it sounds unlikely he'll go. He returned last week after missing 2 games and made the trip to Vegas, but he was limited in practice all week and isn't 100%. So that does change this game a little bit when you now sounds like you're unlikely going to have your best offensive playmaker, but I still feel like this is a game the Packers should go to Vegas and win pretty. I don't want to say easily, but they should win this game. But this changes it a little bit. Your reaction to the Aaron Jones news?
Yeah, I kind of talked about it a little bit this morning, actually, on Wisconsin's Morning News with the extra points. I said it's essentially a must-win game for me. And I don't care who plays really and who doesn't as far as the running back position goes. Obviously, you'd always want Aaron Jones over, the other options. However, this Raiders team is not good, like at all. I mean, you're talking 31st in total defense. They're allowing over 25 points per game. You saw the Steelers go in there and turn it into a home game, which I anticipated being for the Green Bay Packers fans out there. I know about it. Feels like everybody knows somebody out there in Vegas right now. So, so I think, I think it'll be like a home game for Green Bay, but it's a get-right game. It has to be. It has to be for the offense. And, I don't know what the deal is with this offense. We saw it a little bit in preseason. Jordan Love only played usually the one or two first series, but it would just get off to kind of a sluggish, slow start. Then he would come back out there and, then he would, play and kind of look a little bit like he was in rhythm and get going on the offense. But all year they just have not been able to get out to that early lead. And I think the way that the defense is built in Green Bay, it needs to be playing from ahead, right? Like if you're a Packers fan looking at that defense, you don't want to be down 10, 10 points early because teams are just going to end up running the ball right down your throat. And we saw it on Thursday night against Detroit. So it's news. It's big news surrounding Aaron Jones. But regardless of who plays or who doesn't play, this is a game where the Packers have to win, and they're set up to win. Right? The schedule is not hard for them from here on out. For the next at least 5 games. So it could be the start of building something special for this season. Not special, I mean, just winning games and then having a winning record and being there possibly for the playoffs. But if there was a week for Green Bay to get right, it has to be this week. And you had 10 days off, and now you're going to have a week off after this game. So I'm hoping everybody's bought in and ready to rock tonight, and it turns into a fun Monday night matchup.
Yeah, you mentioned everybody knows somebody in Vegas, except me and you. Somehow we get left off the list. I feel like we should be out there, Brandon. I think we got to talk to our bosses and figure out why the hell we're not out there.
Well, I know Benny Bruss is out there.
I know.
He's taking money from people. Were you into the Ben Bruss wager, the $100 roulette?
Yeah, so it was offered to me, and I declined because I felt like
probably a smart move.
Yeah, and I number one, I don't trust him. I don't think he's a very good gambler. Number two, I didn't love that he made his Vegas trip all about himself. So that's what I told him. That was my reasoning for not. And then he said, "Well, you can still get in." And I said, "No, I'm good. Well, maybe." And then he said, "Never mind, you're banned." So that's kind of how our back and forth went on that. How about you? Did you get in?
No, I did not, because I figured it was something along the lines of, "Yeah, I'll take your money and run."
Yeah, that's
deal. And
he's just going to tell everybody they lost because he blew all their money.
And we don't have any proof. Like, he's
right.
not going to be out there recording. You can't do that in Vegas. So he's not going to be out there like, "Look, I tried, guys." No, he's going to be like, "Shucks, I lost. I'll have another drink." Sorry about that, guys. No, so I did not get in on the whatever you want to call it, the pyramid scheme, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah, I think that's the right term for it. I love it. All right, so what else? I mean, on this game, I'm just with Joe Barry, dude. Like, I just feel like until he can prove to me that he could stop the run, I'm just gonna prepare for the worst. And Josh Jacobs, while he hasn't had the greatest season, he hasn't even crossed the 200-yard mark yet through 4 games. He's still a really good running back, Brandon. And he does worry me despite the fact, as you just pointed out, right? The Raiders don't have a very good roster. Their offensive line is mediocre at best. But again, like a good running back will just always terrify me as a Packers fan.
Yeah, and Josh Jacobs is the guy where we're talking about the Packers in a get-right game. He might be looking at this game as a get-right game for himself as well, Packers, but one of the worst rush defenses in all of the league, and he's a guy where, they're kind of beat up all up front, on both sides of the ball. Outside of Max Crosby on the defensive side, they cannot protect the passer on the offensive line. They haven't been able to create holes for Josh Jacobs. But boy, if there was a week where the Raiders are looking at the schedule like, hey, we might be able to get something going here, it would be this week. And I don't know if that's something where, because I believe the Vegas line switched.
It did.
It was -1 Green Bay, and then I don't know if it was the Jimmy G, clearing concussion protocol going to my +1.5 for the Packers. I don't, or maybe they knew Aaron Jones might not be able to go, but
yeah,
it's a game where you have to essentially take Josh Jacobs out of the game if you're the Packers. If you're Matt LaFleur and you're the Packers offense, like, hey, we got to get out and get out early. There's only one guy, really, maybe 2 guys, I guess, if you include Josh Jacobs, that can beat you on that offensive side, right? Devontae Adams can wreck game plans and create all kinds of havoc for a defense. If you just the inability for Joe Barry to identify that on an opposing offense beats the crap out of me. Like, if I'm going into a game, like, all right, I'm going to do everything. Like, let's take Atlanta, for example. Anybody but the running back, Bijan Robinson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, anybody but him. Like, we're going to make Desmond Ridder beat us, or, whoever, Justin Fields in week 1.
Yeah.
And his ability to not identify those easily identifiable targets and just go with it and play their defense to that strength, it beats me. And it's probably the most frustrating thing. Outside of the Brewers not able to hit it with runners in scoring position, it's probably the next most frustrating thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. The word frustration certainly pops up when talking about Joe Barry's defense and the ability to stop the run. And you're right? Like, Jimmy G does not terrify me. He does not scare me as a Packers fan.
At all. Nope.
But to your point, I don't know why the line moves so much. I was talking about that as we were trying to reconnect with you. Like, the Raiders are now 2-point favorites. This is kind of a home game for the Packers in terms of the crowd. And they have pretty much everybody now, it sounds like, maybe not Aaron Jones. But I still like the Packers' chances because the Raiders, if you remove the three names we keep bringing up, right, Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, outside of them might be the worst roster in football. So I just, it doesn't scare me, but it does confuse me. It does confuse me that they're 2-point favorites.
Yeah, it confuses me for sure. Now, when I saw it for the favored in the Packers, I said, that's probably about right.
Right.
Sure, the home team naturally gets the 3 points. They're giving the Packers a 1-point favorite. Like, yeah, that's unproven roster for the Packers. Like, that makes sense. But I don't see. I mean, outside that 1-point win, I believe they beat the Broncos by 1 point to open up the season. They haven't won a game since, and they don't look like a very good team. I mean, you let Kenny Pickett go up and down the field on you. I don't, nothing against him. He's better at what he does than I am what I do. But nonetheless, like, it's probably not a very good defense for opposing teams to be able to score some points. But I don't know, man. The Aaron Jones thing also kind of weirds me out because it's like he practiced the last week and a half. I mean, no, he's limited, but at this time, he's always limited, really.
Right.
But so I don't know. That's obviously worrisome. They did work out a running back. I don't know if they ever signed James Robinson. I don't think they did. Which if they didn't sign him, that would think as a Packer fan that bodes well for Aaron Jones to go. But I don't know. I just this coaching staff I love Matt LaFleur. He's won a ton of games. I think he's a big reason why Aaron Rodgers won his last 2 MVPs. I think he's a big reason why they won 13 games 3 years in a row. But it just seems like sometimes he just tries to outsmart himself. And I think if he just keeps things simple with Jordan Love, the 3-step drop, 5-step drop, ball in, ball out, and just keep the offense moving. Even if you don't have a guy like Aaron Jones, I don't think you should have an issue with a team like the Raiders. And the Raiders, the thing about it is, too, though, is now you have Elton Jenkins on your offensive line, on the left side of that offensive line, right? Rasheed Walker, not the greatest run blocker. He's not going to, grade any roads out, but he is a good pass protector. I think there's some opportunities for Green Bay to move that ball up and down the field. Now you have hopefully a healthy Christian Watson. I was there Thursday night for that Detroit game. Christian Watson was not healthy. It was not healthy. Aaron Jones clearly, I think he only played 6 snaps. He was not healthy. But now if you don't have Aaron Jones tonight, but you do have a healthy Christian Watson, I think they took him off the injury list. That's a huge part of the offense, stretch that defense, create some holes within that running game, and hopefully Aaron Jones can find the right hole to run down.
Yeah, as we sit here and talk about it, if they're without Jones, A.J. Dillon, man, it's been a tough year for him, dude. Like, I hope maybe this is a get-right game, right? Like, you're calling it must-win, which I love, right? Like, it's probably not actually a must-win, but in order to prove to us that maybe you belong and maybe you're a playoff team down the road, I kind of agree with you. It is a term that is used too much, but it actually kind of fits here because it's a national spotlight. You're coming off of essentially a mini bye following getting your ass kicked against Detroit last Thursday, a game you and I were both at. Like, I don't know. A.J. Dillon scares me. I'll tell you what. I'm sitting here telling you Josh Jacobs scares me. A.J. Dillon scares me the exact opposite way because it's been a rough year for him. But again, like, this defense isn't very good. The Raiders, that is. They have Marcus Peters, who is a veteran corner, right? Like, he's not a bad corner, but he is a veteran. He's not the Marcus Peters of a couple years ago. And the rest of those guys don't really belong on the field, at least from a defensive backfield perspective. So this is a game where I want to see Jordan Love prove it, right? Prove you belong. Prove you're a franchise quarterback. Prove you're the guy and pick on the weak link. He did it a little bit against Atlanta. He did it a little bit against Chicago. This is a game where you can pick on bad corners and bad defensive backs with a fully healthy wide receiving core and prove, hey, the good quarters, the good plays, the good throws I've had this season are not flukes. I'm actually that guy. Tonight is a great opportunity for him to do that, even without Aaron Jones.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I alluded to this morning. Obviously you want your full complementary of weapons. And Aaron, you kind of feel bad a little bit for Jordan Love too, because I thought he had a pretty good training camp, a good preseason. Then he goes in to week one, and right off the bat he doesn't have Christian Watson. Aaron Jones gets banged up in week one with the hamstring, so he's really never. And obviously David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins have been banged up. He's just a quarterback that just hasn't had all his weapons available or his protectors up front. And it felt like this week, before we knew about the Aaron Jones stuff, that he was finally going to have that outside of Bakhtiari. And you hope. I don't know. The Aaron Jones thing's still weird to me. I just don't understand how the guy practices all week. He was a full go a couple of days, and then all of a sudden maybe he had a setback. But you feel a little bit sad for Jordan Love, because it's just a guy that obviously has a lot to prove. The fan base is sitting at every throw, every snap at the edge of their seat for that guy to either make a great pass or throw an interception, whatever side of the aisle you fall on. And for me, I'm rooting hard for him. But it's just it feels like he's going a battle uphill, climbing an uphill battle, and he's only got one leg. It feels like it never ends for him to go into these environments. And now it's the Raiders on Monday Night Football. I know he played Thursday night prime time. Monday night is Monday night. It's a legendary moment for him. You hope he can come through, because look, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's not a must win for any standings, right? Detroit's kind of in control of the NFC North as it stands right now. But if you win this game, you're right there with Detroit. You obviously see them down the line in Thanksgiving. But it's kind of a game where you want to look at this Packers team, this coaching staff, and kind of look at them in the face and say, what are you? You just got embarrassed on your home floor, on your home field on Thursday night, and got destroyed by a division rival. How are you going to bounce back? And you had extra days to prepare for this. I don't care if Aaron Jones goes or doesn't go. Really, quite frankly, the Packers probably had a grasp on this well before Tom Pelissero did, regardless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a game where the coaching staff needs to step up. And I don't know what the lack of edge with this defense is. Is it Joe Barry? Is it Matt LaFleur? I'm watching games yesterday, Alex, and I'm watching the Steelers, and a defense that isn't necessarily world beaters, right? But there's an edge to them, man. They're playing with a little bit of fire, a little bit of passion. They're angry. They're pissed off. But you watch the Packers, and it's just, you got Preston Smith flanked out guarding whoever the X or Y receiver is. I don't know. It feels like the philosophy on the defensive side of the ball in Green Bay is just completely different. And maybe it's because we watch more Packers than other teams, but it just feels off to me. And this is a game where they got to go in and be like, there's no reason. Look, and I wrote about it this morning for Wisconsin Morning News. You let Jimmy Garoppolo beat you again? Like, are we going to do this again?
Nope.
Like, you're better than him. You know what I mean? You're a better team. So it's a get right game, but it's a must-win game for me, because there's so many, the things that we've talked about before, laid them out. It's just an opportunity for the Packers to kind of get right. And look, you have opportunity to play some guys and then rest some guys going in. I think the bye week came at a great time. I know not everybody's a fan of the week 6 bye week, but if Aaron Jones is not able to go tonight, you should be able to go in from week 7 on to the rest of the year, healthy, tentatively healthy.
Yeah, and momentum's so real, right? Like, it's so big. They win the night, they roll into the bye week feeling good, and then you come back out against a really bad Denver team. Like,
right.
If you lose tonight, this could create shambles, right? Bad energy in the bye week. You go to Denver. If you lose that one, you feel like the season's over. So momentum's real, but I think we're on the same page. Packers win tonight. I'm looking at props, and I don't know how big of a gambler you are, as we were just dragging Benny Bruss, but I'm looking at this one from DraftKings. Josh Jacobs over under 72.5 rushing yards. I'm reading a column on ESPNWisconsin.com about how that is the easiest over of this game, which again terrifies me because I don't want Josh Jacobs getting loose, Brandon. That's like it's a weird. I don't want to call it an irrational fear, but it's kind of close to that. Given that like the Packers front seven should beat up on this Raiders O line, and Josh Jacobs shouldn't go over 72.5, especially if the Packers get an early lead. But if this is the easiest bet of the game, that's telling me a lot of people that are not Packers fans like you and I that are very much on the inside, that are on the outside looking in, feel like that is a gimme. That's not making me feel a whole lot better. And this line is Raiders too. Are we overestimating how good the Packers are? I'm going into full blown panic mode right now.
Yeah, and I think the Aaron Jones news probably doesn't help those feelings at all, because if you would have told me before the Aaron Jones news, I'd have been like, I mean, if Green Bay plays their style of offense that we have seen, we saw a little bit with the Chicago. I mean, they were up 24-12 against Atlanta. They obviously came back from 17 down against the Saints. Like, if they can get ahead on Las Vegas enough to kind of minimize the use of Josh Jacobs, I wouldn't have no worry about it. But now you got an offense that just for whatever reason, and even when Aaron Rodgers was here in Green Bay, without Aaron Jones, just struggled a little bit, right? They just looked a step off. It just didn't sink in the way it's supposed to be. And, I don't know who's going to get elevated as far as running back. We'll know that in a couple hours. But, yeah, it is worrisome. 72.5, you said. I mean, if Las Vegas is able to establish the run and obviously have Devontae Adams out wide and it could go south. And like you said, you lose this game in a snowball effect. I mean, Denver's not a give me, nothing's a give me from here on out. If you don't have the ability to get a win tonight, I don't care how ugly it is. You can win 10-9. I could care less. Get out there with a victory, get back, get healthy, get right, use a bye week to do whatever they got to do. Injury wise, it's been, I don't know what it is. We talked about it with Tausch on Wisconsin's Morning News last week. Wisconsin sports there's got to be some spell that was casted on injuries with the state of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like every year with every team, Ches Malusi just a couple weeks ago for the Badgers,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it feels like every year. Now this year, Aaron Jones unable to go for the Packers. David Bakhtiari obviously ruled out for the year. I don't think that necessarily surprises a ton of people, but the Aaron Jones one does, because, man, what a guy like he does, what he brings for a guy like Jordan Love, you can't put words on it. It's huge. But yeah, if the Green Bay Packers are unable to stop Josh Jacobs, I don't see how they win. But again, that goes to Joe Barry. Like, what are you going to identify on this Raiders offense? Are you going to let Josh Jacobs beat you, or are you going to let Jimmy Garoppolo beat you? Right? Like, let's not play shell defense. Let's not play a soft front. Like, load the box, stop the run, let Jimmy Garoppolo make those mistakes, because this Packers defense, in my opinion, the front seven is built to rush the passer.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Brooks, Kingsley and Enagbare, they're not going to stop the run, right? They're not built for that, right? Rashawn Gary kind of does a little bit of everything. Preston Smith is a better run stopper than I think people give him credit for. But this is a front seven that is built to stop the pass. So you get out in that early lead, you stack the box, and just match up Jair and Devontae. Like, don't complicate it, man. He's one of the best quarterbacks in football.
All right, I've come to a conclusion. Joe Barry needs to hire Brandon Sneide. That's what needs to happen. You need, as great of a job as you do at WTMJ and Wisconsin's Morning News, Brandon, you need to go work for Joe Barry.
Oh, my gosh. I'll never understand. Hey, man, that's their best receiver. You're our best cornerback.
Right.
Guess what? Go match up with him.
It ain't rocket science. And sometimes Joe Barry makes it rocket science and brain surgery, and we need to stop that. Well, Brandon and I, it seems like we're on the same page. Let Jimmy G beat you, and the Packers should win. And it's a big game. It's a prove-it game. It's a must-win game. Brandon's calling it. I love it. Brandon, thanks for doing this, bro. I know it was short notice, and obviously we fought through some technical difficulties, but it's always great catching up with you. Hopefully you're not throwing your hat on the floor and ignoring your family tonight as the Packers get a win in Vegas.
Yeah, I think tonight will be a good night. I think it's going to be a good night. I predicted the Packers to win 27-17. This was last week on WTMJ, so I think I'm going to hold true to that. I think it's a good game for Jordan Love and to find Christian Watson again. I think Romeo Doubs is going to be Romeo Doubs, and I'm looking for a big game out of the defense. Quay Walker, I know you were there on Thursday night. That dude is everywhere.
He is.
On the defensive side, and I don't anticipate that changing tonight I think he has a big game. So yeah, my family, I think, hopes. I mean, I don't know. They might not care if I don't talk to them or not. They're probably like, yeah, I mean,
we're better off that way. We're better off that way.
It's a win-win, I suppose. We'll take it.
So what's the over/under on hat throws, right? Because this is a long game. Is it like 1.5, 2.5, 3? What's the over/under on Brandon Sneide angry hat throws in the living room?
I'd probably put it at. I'm trying to think of the last few games throughout the course of the season. We'll put the over/under probably at like 4.
Okay, I would like you to report back with a final number.
I think outside of week 1, Alex, it's been pretty rough. Like 17-0 to the Saints.
Uh-huh.
You gave up a double-digit lead to the frickin' Falcons and Desmond Ridder. I mean, Detroit really wasn't close from the start.
That was a smoke, yeah. That was rough.
But yeah, I'd probably put it at. We'll go 3.5. 3.5 is probably a good number.
All right, you keep me posted on what happens there. Hopefully it's the under. I'm just not super certain it will be. Brandon Sneide from WTMJ. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Go Pack.
Go Pack, go, indeed. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon_Sneide, Sneide on Twitter. All right, we'll wrap it up next. What Strouf learned, final thoughts ahead of Green Bay game day, which I'll tell you more about in a second. 4 to 7:15 tonight as we do a longer preview of the game. A really good stuff there from Brandon. Always good chatting with him. I've known him for years, so it's always good to connect with him whenever we can. All right, we will take a break. When we come back, what Strouf learned, final thoughts on Packers Raiders. That's next. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. I know we're talking green and gold right now, but we got 3.5 hours more of that to do tonight from 4 to 7:15. It's Green Bay game day on 620 WTMJ and ESPN Wisconsin, 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee, and 100.5 ESPN Madison. It's a reunion tonight. I'm joined by my boys, Jim Rutledge and Matt Hamilton, who you, of course, hear on Rutledge and Hamilton weekdays from 4 to 6 on ESPN Madison. The three of us will be joined by Rob Demovsky in Hour 1, Jason Wilde in Hour 2, former Packers right tackle Brian Bulaga will join us in hour number 3. It'll be fun. We're leading you up to kickoff on Green Bay game day across ESPN Wisconsin at 620 WTMJ. Don't miss it. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks again to Brandon Sneide for joining us to talk all things Packers and Brewers and hat throws and Aaron Jones news and all the in-betweens. All right, Hunter, I had a different one, but you sent this to me while we were talking with Brandon there. And according to The Guardian, cricket, baseball, softball, and flag football will be added to the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, which is the Summer Olympics, right? That's the Summer Olympics in 28.
Do you really think they're going to put Winter Olympics in L.A.?
That's a fair point, but there's not really a winter in L.A., so yeah, I guess that would be a really fair point. But how does baseball in the Olympics work? Does the MLB stop, or are MLB players not allowed to participate?
We don't really know. They've done breaks before. Some hockey used to do a break.
Well, what I learned, though, has nothing to do with baseball, which I love, by the way. Baseball, softball. I know nothing about cricket. Like, I'm familiar, of course. It's like one of the biggest sports in the world. I don't know how it works. It is kind of fun to watch. So I'm intrigued by all of this. The fourth one, though, I think I got to start training. Flag football in the Olympics. Because they're not going to have, like, Tyreek Hill out there. Right, like they'll probably have, you know who could go is actually our buddy Chris Orr, right? Like he should train for the next 5 years to go play flag football in the Olympics. But in all seriousness, who is playing in that? Because if you're wired away, where you've played only tackle football for the last 12 years of your life, right? We're talking elementary, middle, high, college, and maybe some NFL. Maybe it's like some former NFL guys that are still very much in shape, USFL, XFL guys. I don't know if you belong in flag football. You're going to hurt somebody. So maybe they need some average Joes like me off the street who will play hard, will go hard, will dive at the flags, will do whatever, lay their bodies on the line in the Olympics. Flag football in the Olympics sounds awesome. I'm fully in on that because there's not professional flag football. This doesn't exist. So it's not an easy parallel. Like I saw like LeBron and everybody is getting ready for the next year's Olympics to run it back and get a gold medal for the U.S. in basketball. I feel like that's not an easy parallel for NFL and flag football. So I want to know who's playing in this. But this will become maybe the biggest Olympic sport, Like, I would seriously make the argument already. Baseball is going to be huge in the Olympics, as long as professional guys can play. But flag football in the Olympics is going to be ginormous. I love that.
Well, plus it's like a 7-on-7, and there's so much space. So it's going to be insane athletes playing football.
Yeah.
So it'll be so fun.
I love that. That's really fun. Cricket, I'll become a cricket fan in 5 years. Baseball in the Olympics, I love it. Softball, again, like that's an easy one to execute. You're going to have it's a huge spotlight for a bunch of people that really don't have an opportunity at the professional level. So I love that. Flag football in the Olympics. That is something I never thought I'd say out loud. Legitimately, I never thought flag football would be considered an Olympic sport because they got rid of the one I was actually considering starting to train for because I'm tall and lanky. They used to have speed walking in the Summer Olympics. You couldn't run, you couldn't break a certain pace. You always had to have a foot on the ground, I believe was the rule. But they got rid of it. So flag football now will take its place. I'm in love with this. All right, I think it's going to be the biggest thing in the world. So that's what I learned is that flag football will be likely added in the 2028 Summer Olympics. All right, final thoughts quickly on Packers Raiders. This Aaron Jones news. Brandon kept saying it's weird to him. I agree. It is a weird thing that's lingered, and now he might miss tonight's game after just playing a few snaps or only touching the ball, I think, 6 times in that Detroit game a week and a half ago. Not ideal, not good. Hamstrings have been plaguing the Packers. Thankfully, they have a bye week coming up, so hopefully that's all it is, right? You just get through this, take the week off, get through the bye week. You're good to go the rest of the year for Aaron Jones. Fingers crossed that's the case. But them working out James Robinson last week, which we didn't talk about on the podcast, but James Robinson, of course, formerly of the Jaguars, worked out with the Packers last week. He didn't get signed, so I don't know. This is all kind of wacky to me. I just hope Jordan Love quickly wins this game. Gets an early lead. They hang on to the early lead. The defense is good enough to win this game. That's my hope tonight. I think that's what happens. I think Jordan Love picks on the weak links defensively, and he throws 3 touchdowns. I think this is a big Jordan Love game. Big prove-it game, as I called earlier. So hope that's the case. I'm not always right with my predictions, but that's how I'm feeling as it stands right now about 1 o'clock on Monday night. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Wednesday, we will react. Maybe a quickie pod, depending on how tonight goes for tomorrow. But in the meantime, Wednesday we'll be back. Scheduled to appear. Make sure College Game Day isn't thrown off our schedule. Jen Latta will join us Wednesday to talk all things College Game Day. There's a really big game in Madison this weekend. Badgers, Iowa, which, how I view it, is it's a Big Ten West Championship game. I mean, I know it's early in the season, but big game coming up on Saturday at Camp Randall. So Jen Latta scheduled to join us Wednesday. And as we talk about the Olympics, the Olympic gold medalist Matt Hamilton scheduled to join us Friday this week on the show. So enjoy your week. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Hopefully a Packers win. I think it could be a big Packers win, but you never know with this team. I feel like we're ending the show negatively. I don't want to do that. I want to end the show positively. Jordan Love's going to have a huge game tonight. Like, I am convinced of that. I am convinced that Jordan Love will have a giant game. He'll pick on the weak links. I think he spreads the wealth. I think several receivers will catch a pass. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Samori Toure maybe gets in the end zone. Jaden Reed, right? Get tight ends involved a little bit. Maybe A.J. Dillon has a bounce-back game if there's no Aaron Jones. I feel like this is a get-right game against a bad team. The Raiders are no good. They've lost 3 straight. Packers going to make it 4 straight tonight on national TV. Also, what I learned while we've been sitting here, by the way, Scott Van Pelt out of Monday Night Countdown tonight. He lost his voice during SportsCenter last night. I watched it, and I was like, oh, that's not good for a guy that's on a big spotlight. So no Scott Van Pelt. Joe Buck will host the first hour of Monday Night Countdown, and then his wife will take over for the remainder of the program, Michelle Buck, who also works at ESPN. So the Buck duo will split up hosting duties for Monday Night Countdown tonight because Scott Van Pelt woke up without a voice.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there you go. That's also what I learned while we've been sitting here. All right, enjoy the game. We'll talk to you Wednesday. It's been Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf.